How did the Bolsheviks gain and hold on to power?
Russia, March 1917. Nicolas II, the last Tsar, abdicated and the Tsarist regime ended forever. Because of that, the provisional government came to power. But on the 24th of October of the same year, the Bolsheviks overthrew the provisional government. The Bolsheviks were a political party that wanted to start a revolution. It had two main leaders, Vladimir Lenin and Leon Trotsky.
We are here with Vladimir Lenin and Leon Trotsky, leaders of the Bolshevik Party. We have a few questions for them. Mr. Lenin, Mr. Trotsky, pleasure. Mr. Lenin, can you tell us a little bit about your life?
I born 1870 in a rich Russian family. When I have 7 years, my brother was murdered by the Tsar power. This made me very hungry. Then I go and study in St. Petersburg University. Then I came to Russia to make a really change and create a political party. But in 1905, a big problem occurred. The power in that time arrested me 1 year and then exiled to me 3 years more.
Mr. Trotsky, can you tell us about your ideas?
Of course, when I was young, I see the peasants without food and land, and the workers don't have the payment necessary to have a good life. So when I start growing, I start thinking that a change was necessary. So I meet Lenin and the Marx ideas. That Marx ideas want to give the power to the people, the poor people, that were forget by the rich people. So we want to take out the autocratic government of Nicolas II that are destroying Russia and make Russia great again.
Thank you very much for your time.
Goodbye.
The Bolsheviks were able to seize power because the provisional government was very unpopular. In 1917, a member of the Menshevik party says that Kerensky, the provisional government's leader, doesn't care about the peasants. Also because they had a lot of supporters. In July of 1917, before coming to power, they already had 200,000 members, and in October they started the revolution with 800,000. They also had the Red Army, an army of their own with well-trained soldiers and a great leader, Trotsky. Finally, they were the only political party against the war, and that was what most people wanted, to end the war with Germany.
Good morning, people of Petrograd. I am present with the mission to aware all of you about the operational government plans. After overthrowing the Tsar, a new threat has arrived, the Bolsheviks party. The operational government will be in charge of regulating this party in order to restore peace. We will continue our participation in World War into my command. We appreciate your support and no major measures will be taken into our regime.
Shut up! You damn shut up! We want change. We all want future. We can't go back to that crisis.
Exactly. Get out of here. Let the Bolsheviks take control. They know what they are doing. They will give us quality life. Life for Bolsheviks!
Get out!
When they had control of Russia, they made an assembly to let the people decide who they wanted for a leader. But since they lost, Lenin sent the Red Army to close the Constituent Assembly so that they could remain in power. They also took control of the Winter Palace, which was guarded by the provisional government. The Bolsheviks had a lot of enemies, and these enemies joined together to form the White Army, which fought the Red Army in a civil war. The Whites were pro-Tsarist regime and wanted to get him out of prison. This war lasted 5 years, but the last main fight was in Crimea in 1920, where the Bolsheviks had a disadvantage but still were able to defeat the Whites. After this civil war, the Bolsheviks killed the Tsar so that no opposition comes up again.
We have to attack the point of the German army.
Yeah, we can go from the north to the south.
Yes. Here we have an army that is prepared to have that.
Yeah, half of this.
2, 1.
Hands up! Hands up!
Everyone, please. Our work here is done. Yeah.
Revolution!
What's up?
Stay here, you come with me.
Yes, sir.
We're waiting.
They got me.
Come on! I think we got him! We made
Alright,
it!
we've got this!
Yeah!
No! No! No!
When Lenin came to power, he imposed war communism, but the hard-working peasants didn't like that because the government was taking 90% of what they produced. That is why the Kronstadt sailors started a mutiny in February of 1921, and Lenin announced the new economic policies, or NEP. This allowed peasants to sell 40% of what they produced. They could keep the money and 10% of their gross. Many of the Bolshevik members disagreed because it was against communism.
We need to change our economic system to make Russian Empire great again. We need to introduce capitalism in some sectors. The heavy sectors behind in our hands, but the small sectors, we need to introduce capitalism to win money with the taxes.
That is impossible. We are betraying our communist thinking. You are destroying the permanent revolution.
Shut up! I agree with Lenin. We must do whatever we need to leave this crisis.
Yes, Trotsky. Lenin is right. We must make a sacrifice.
Vladimir, do what you want, but take care of your acts.
Leon, sorry, but we need to make this.
It's impossible.
It is important to know that by that time, the Russians used a different calendar than the one we use now. Nowadays, we use the Gregorian calendar, but in the 1920s, they used the Julian calendar, which is a few days behind ours. There aren't many major differences in dates, but for example, the October Revolution, that happened in the 24th of October, using our Gregorian calendar actually happened the 6th of November. In many history books, it says that Lenin died in January the 1st, but the Russian people of that time remember it in January the 8th.